I think I've become addicted to suspending things in gelatin. The eyeball mold.
Let's see what's cooking. It's time for Yo-Yo Max 12.
Now you see me make eyeballs before, like in this eyeball pie, and I'm going to shamelessly reuse part of that footage for this video. Hello everyone, first thing we're going to do is make the eyeballs. This is for the white part of the eye. That's a half a cup of cold water in a small bowl. And you're going to sprinkle on top of that 2 envelopes of unflavored gelatin. That's a 1/4 ounce each, 8 grams. And then just let it sit and the gelatin will absorb the water. And in another bowl, you'll place 14 ounces or 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. Then pour in 1 cup of boiling water into the sweetened condensed milk and give it a little stir and set that aside. Now to that first amount of gelatin, you will add a half a cup of boiling water and just gently stir that around until the gelatin dissolves and the mixture will look like it's clear. Add it to the milk mixture and then you're going to set this aside and let it come to room temperature. Now for the colored part of the eye, you're going to take a half a cup of cold water and you'll sprinkle 1 envelope of unflavored gelatin on top of that. Let it sit. And then I realized I should have done it in a bigger bowl to begin with, so I just transferred it to this larger measuring cup. And to this, you will add 1/4 cup of sugar, white granulated sugar, and a half a cup of boiling water. And just give that a stir around until the sugar and the gelatin is completely dissolved. Now I divided this mixture between 3 bowls, and as you can see, there was lots left in that measuring cup, because I didn't know how much I was going to need, really. And I added a couple drops of green food color in, and I realized I put way too much green food coloring. I wanted a nice green color, but I wanted it to be translucent. I wanted to be able to see through it. So I just transferred a spoonful into another bowl, and lo and behold, that's exactly what I was looking for. A nice green, but that you can see through it. So next time around, I put a little tiny bit of food color on the edge of the spoon, and I just kind of gently stirred it in until I reached the color that I liked. And I did the same thing with the blue. Now with this paste food color, you got to really stir well to make sure that you don't have any little bits of food color floating in the liquid there. Now, how to assemble these. This is a sphere mold that I'm currently spraying with some cooking spray there. You have to put cooking spray or lightly oil them so that nothing sticks to them. I bought these sphere molds on Amazon, and they weren't actually that much actually. And then I'm using a plastic syringe to just put a little bit of the colored liquid in the bottom of the sphere molds. Now, if you'll see it says poison on it, they are actually plastic syringes that I bought at the dollar store, and they're for Halloween, to make Halloween shooters for a party. So put a little bit of the colored liquid in the bottom, and then I added a blueberry. That's going to be the center of the eye, and when you see when we're done, it's going to look just like it's black, and you're not going to be able to tell there's a blueberry in there. So a little bit of blue on this one. I did blue for these 3, green, and then I did another mold with some other colors. And then you're going to put this in the refrigerator and let it chill until the gelatin is set. And that won't take very long. It'll probably take about 15-20 minutes. Then you'll take that white mixture and you'll fill up the molds. Now make sure the white mixture is at room temperature. If it is too hot, it'll melt the colored gelatin in the bottom and it'll all blend in together. So make sure that it is no warmer than room temperature. So once the bottom half of the mold is filled, you're going to put that top half on top. Now this is a silicone mold and they kind of sort of just fit together. They don't snap together. Then you're going to fill up the molds with the white liquid that's at room temperature and fill them all the way up to the top. And then you're going to put this in the refrigerator and you're going to let it sit there to harden for at least 1.5 hours to 2 hours. And I recommend that you put like a book or something on top just to keep the 2 mold halves together, especially if you're using the silicone mold. And once they're set, you can unmold them. As you can see here, there's some of the liquid that has escaped and it's kind of hardened in between there. That comes off quite easily, but I think if you put something that's just a little bit heavy on top, it'll keep that from happening as much. And there they are out of the molds. You just peel off that excess. Now you can see where the 2 molds joined. It left like a ring around the eye. You can use your fingers or even a sharp knife just to gently trim away those pieces. Now we're going to make the clear suspension liquid for the eyeballs. That is 4 cups of cold water, and you're going to add the equivalent of 6 envelopes of unflavored gelatin. Let that sit until the gelatin is absorbed into the water and it softens. And then we're going to add 4 cups of boiling water, and then put your heat on to about medium or so, just to make sure that everything is nicely dissolved. Give it a nice stir. Add in between 1 and 2 cups of sugar, whatever the amount of sugar you want. 1 to 1.5 cups to me is plenty and nice and sweet. And then I added 2 teaspoons of tartaric acid or citric acid because it gives it some kind of flavor. Because on its own, there's no flavor at all to this. But you can add whatever flavor you want as long as it's clear so that it doesn't tint your liquid. Then you're going to let that come to room temperature. You're going to spray a mold with some cooking spray, and then you're going to add the liquid to the mold until it reaches about 1/2 to 3/4 of the way up the mold, and then you're going to put it in the refrigerator and allow it to chill. Now you're going to let it chill until it just starts to solidify. So it's still kind of liquid, but it has like jelly-like properties. So when you take those eyeballs that of course you've left in the refrigerator, you want them to be chilled, they kind of suspend in this jelly. And make sure when you put the eyeballs in that you keep in mind that the bottom of this mold is going to actually be the top of your finished product. So you want to make sure that the irises of the eyeballs are visible to the people that are looking at it. So make sure they're facing either down or outward towards the sides of the mold so that you can see them properly. Then you're going to take this and you're going to put it in the refrigerator, and then you're going to allow this to set completely until it's nice and firm. Then you're going to take it out of the fridge, and then you're going to add our second layer of liquid, and that's going to fill it up almost to the top. Then put it back in the fridge, and then you're going to allow it to become that semi-jellified state so that we can suspend more eyeballs in it. And the second time you do this won't take as long because you already have some cold gelatin on the bottom. So there we are. We're going to do the rest of the eyeballs. And we're going to fill up this mold completely with the eyeballs and just kind of artistically arrange them. And I used all different color eyeball colors, so I tried to spread them around so you didn't have too many colors that were together. And then you're going to put this in the refrigerator and you're going to let it sit until that's solidified. It does take a long time, but it's just most of it is just chilling time. There it is, nicely set. And then finally I decided to add a little bit more gelatin liquid because some of the eyeballs were kind of sticking out. So what I did is I just poured a little bit more on top of it until all the eyeballs were covered, and this pan was really, really full. Now I recommend if you're going to do this and it's this full, pour that extra liquid on your mold inside the refrigerator. Do it right in the fridge. Don't try to do it on the counter, because when I picked this up to move it to the refrigerator, I spilled a lot and ended up washing the floor because of all the gelatin that was on there. Then you're going to put this in the fridge, let it sit overnight or several hours until it's nicely set. Now this is the next day. That is a sink full of warm water. I'm just going to plunge the mold into the warm water up to the brim, and I just waited until I could see some of the mold melting a little bit on the edges, and it happens very quickly because this is a metal mold. This is real time. You can see I only let it sit there for maybe, what was that, 30 seconds or so. And then you're going to take your serving platter, whatever you want to use, put it on top and just give it a flip. And if all works well, when you lift up that mold, you'll see a lovely, perfect gelatin eyeballs mold. Now, if it's not centered on the plate like it's not here, all you have to do is put the mold back on, flip it over, move it, and then unflip it. Take the cover off again. This is actually fairly durable, in quotation marks. You can manhandle this a little bit by putting it back in the mold and transferring it to a different platter if you want, without it breaking apart. So be gentle, but it's not as delicate as you'd think. And there it is on top of the kind of crystal or glass cake platter that I had. I think it looked quite nice on there. But then I also tried it on a different color platter because I wasn't sure that the crystal really brought out the eyeballs And I put it on a red plastic platter, and I think I like this one the best because it did give a little bit of color underneath, and instead of just having plain. And I also tried it on a silver plated tray just to see what that looked like. So you have to tell me what you think it would be the best color underneath this. And here is an individual serving. I put it on a little plate with a little bit of whipped cream. Now, if you're interested in seeing how this slices, be sure to check out my Denture Jello mold when I show you how nicely this slices up. Thank you so much for watching.